worthy of life. Joy division is her vision. To live or die, mankind makes the decision. Wash your hands with soap made up of your friends. You watched them die. You watched them
there's this one thing called Joy Division. It's like one of my favorite bands, and like I didn't know what Joy Division meant, but it was like it has to do with like in the Holocaust they had like these.
Sorry.
They basically like raped these women, and that was like what happened. And
Starved to death, look at the cost. Run, 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 the judgment in your eyes. Society's divide.
the soap in the water has, I think Lauren, I might have read something about that, right?
Well, it was kind of like psychological torture. They'd give the prisoners, the Jewish prisoners, the soap. They'd say, "Oh, we made it out of the dead Jewish bodies, and now you're, you know." So I don't know if it was true or not, but that's what they tell them. So just to really torture them, you know. And another reference is this part, the drink seawater. It's an ironic part because they would make them drink seawater, which obviously makes you more dehydrated. So it's ironic. The more you drink, the more you need water. They'd also make them like play really upbeat music before they die, like obscenely upbeat music. So to play some upbeat music for the war to drown out the screams, which is pretty much.
Run, 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 the strong must survive. Arms outstretched, nailed to the cross. Starved to death, look at the cost. Run, 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 the judgment in your eyes.
Originally this song was about my grandfather, and I didn't even know that I wrote a song about the Holocaust because my grandfather was a survivor of the Holocaust.
I don't really know too much about the Holocaust. Like what I know mental illness, like that's what I write about. So I'm like, how can I kind of tie this in? So the song's basically about, you know, how horrible it is when society says, you know, terrible things happen when people say they're better than someone else.
Run, 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 society says. Run, 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 you're less than human. Run, 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 the weak aside. Run, 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 the strong must survive.
Well, you can't tell people unless they're also mentally ill. Like, you can't just say, oh yeah, I'm, you know, I have this disorder, you know. I mean, you can't just say that to people. And because they'll you know, be like, oh, you know, oh, she's a freak.
Society's divide. Society's divide.
Well, I think music has definitely given me a purpose, because before that I just really followed society's rules. You know, I did well in high school, and I went to a 4-year university like all the successful people do, but I was miserable because that wasn't my path. And what ended up happening is that I was so miserable that I basically started to decompensate with my mental health, that just things started to go downhill with the OCD, and I was, you know, I was cutting myself, and I was taking pills, and I was just really, you know, I wasn't ready to kill myself, but I was really at the end kind of my rope.
The thing that kept me alive, I think it was my mom. I just saw my mom, when I came back from the Philippines, my mom had cancer, and I just couldn't do it in front of her. I was going to wait till she died to do it, and, but like the thing is now, like when I went to the psychologist, he told me that he asked me if I was a cruel person, and I said, I don't think I'm a cruel person. He says, well, if you were to commit suicide, you would destroy everybody else's life, you know? It's really cruel. And I never thought about it that way, because I think of suicide as like, for me, it was like my salvation, and something that I owned, and something that I could do, and I felt like no one had a right to stop me thing.
But it's almost, the best way to describe it, it's like the intensity is so deep that you can't scream it because it's just not enough. So you let it, it's like you let it go. It's like you have this intense anger or whatever emotion, and through the music you let it go subtly, because if you let it all go all at once, everything would just fall apart. So it's almost like more intense.